So if you're in Florida, have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, what is going on with my hair? It's a really common thought, and today, we're going to break down the unique mix of things that make hair health a real challenge in the Sunshine State.
So let's just cut to the chase, right? Is the Sunshine State secretly a bad hair state? It's a great question, and believe me, the answer is not a simple yes or no. It's actually way more interesting than that.
The thing is, you can't just point your finger at one culprit. What's really happening in Florida is this perfect storm of factors. The environment you're surrounded by, your own personal biology, and yeah, the choices you make every single day.
All right, let's kick things off with the big one, the thing you literally feel the second you walk outside, the environment. We're talking sun, we're talking sweat, and what all that does to your scalp.
You know, the very things people love about Florida, that incredible year-round warmth and sunshine, well, they're actually creating a couple of major headaches for your hair.
So on one side of the coin, you've got that crazy intense sun. Just like your skin, constant UV radiation is super damaging. It doesn't just weaken the hair strands you see, it can actually hurt the follicles underneath, which can make thinning happen faster. But then, on the flip side, you've got the humidity. That means more sweat, which, you guessed it, can clog up your pores and create this unhealthy environment on your scalp, basically a perfect breeding ground for stuff that gets in the way of hair growth.
Okay, so the Florida climate is obviously a huge deal. But you know, if we only blame the weather, we're missing half the story. What's going on inside our bodies is just as critical to all of this.
And that brings us right into our next section, the internal stuff. This is where we look at the factors that are true no matter where you live. We're talking about your genes and your hormones. Okay, so first let's talk about the #1 cause of hair loss on the entire planet, pattern baldness. And yeah, this has nothing to do with Florida specifically. It's a genetic thing, basically a blueprint you get from your parents that decides stuff like hair density in your hairline. It affects both men and women.
And then, of course, there are hormones. I mean, think about it. Huge life events like pregnancy and postpartum recovery, or even just the natural process of getting older, can create these massive hormonal shifts. Plus, conditions like thyroid disorders can throw your whole body out of whack, and that often shows up as hair loss, which can be temporary or, well, not so temporary.
All right, so we've talked about the environment and our biology. Two things that can feel like they're totally out of our control, right? Well, now let's switch gears and talk about the things you can actually do something about. Which leads us perfectly into our final piece of the puzzle, the lifestyle link. We're going to zoom in on stress and what you eat, and how they play a massive role in the health of your hair.
Let's break this down because the impact is super direct. When you're under a ton of stress, it can literally shock your system and push a bunch of your hair follicles into this resting phase. You might not see it right away, but a few months down the line, you could notice a lot more shedding. And at the same time, if you're not eating right, if you're missing key things like iron, biotin, or protein, you're basically starving your hair of the building blocks it needs. That weakens the hair and really slows down any new growth.
Okay, so we've looked at all these pieces separately, the environment, our bodies, our habits. Now it's time to put it all together and really connect the dots to see the full picture.
So what does it all boil down to? It's not just one thing. Hair loss, especially in a place like Florida, is this unique intersection of place, that's where you live, person, that's your genetic makeup, and practice, that's how you live your life.
So you can really think of it as a 3-part problem, all happening at once. First, you've got those environmental factors that you just can't avoid, like the sun and humidity. Layered right on top of that is your own personal biology, your genes, your hormones, and then finally you have your lifestyle habits, the things you actually have some power over. All 3 of those things combine to create the result you see in the mirror. So when you think about all these things working together, the sun beating down, the genes you were born with, and the stress in your life, which one of these pieces of the puzzle really stands out to you? The one that makes you go, huh, I never really thought about it that way. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.